Howdy folks, I'm conniving cranberry sauce, cravenly cramming curious contraband into creepy crawl spaces.
I'm Amber.
And folks, if you've ever wondered why you suddenly after Thanksgiving have strange, creepy things in your crawl spaces, you have cranberry sauce to blame. Let's get started. Both unsettling and true. Alright folks, and our first letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Suing My Elderly Neighbor After Finding Out He Secretly Put a Camera in My Bathroom? Hey everyone, I'm honestly still in shock and could really use some perspective here. So, I'm a 32-year-old female, and I've known my neighbors, John, a 75-year-old male, and Nancy, a 73-year-old female, for years now. They are sweet people, like the typical kind, caring older couple. We've been on great terms, and they were like family to me, honestly. Since they're elderly and don't have many family around, I thought that it would be okay to give them a spare key just for emergencies, you know? Well, yesterday I was doing a deep clean in my bathroom when I found this tiny object behind the vent. It was a mini camera, like really well hidden. At first I was like, no way that this can be real, but after the shock wore off, I started piecing things together and just felt this sinking dread in my stomach. I immediately checked my home security footage just to see if I could figure out how it got there. And there it was, clear as day, John coming into my house while I was out, multiple times. It's pretty obvious that he was the one who put it in there. And it made me feel, I don't even know how, betrayed, sick, I can't even find the words. I went over right away and I confronted him, and he actually admitted to it. He didn't even try to deny it. He just said that he was curious and tried to downplay it. Nancy was in the room and looked absolutely shattered. She kept saying that she had no idea, and I believe her. She was just as horrified, and she even started saying that she can't live with him if this is the kind of person that he is. She mentioned something about thinking about divorce, and I could see how broken she looked. But here's where I'm struggling. After a lot of thought, I've decided that I need to press charges. This was a massive invasion of privacy, and I don't know how else to hold him accountable. But now family and some friends are saying that I'm overreacting and that suing an old man could ruin his life, especially since Nancy is already suffering from it. I feel like I'm stuck. I hate the idea of hurting Nancy by suing her husband. She's done nothing wrong, and I know this is tearing her apart. But how can I just let this go? What he did was so beyond wrong, and age shouldn't be an excuse, right? Am I really supposed to just brush this off? Anyways, am I the jerk for deciding to go forward with a lawsuit against him, even if it could totally ruin both their lives? All right, folks, what do you think?
No, not the jerk. Opie, I am so sorry that you were put in this horrible situation. And he deserves to feel the full extent of the law for what he did. It is not okay. It is horrible. He has invaded your privacy and shattered your trust in him. You thought he was just a nice, friendly neighbor, and lo and behold, he's been invading you in some very personal and private moments.
Yeah. And the fact that he's trying to downplay this, right? Mm-hmm. Like, he's trying to make it seem like this isn't that bad, but it is that bad.
It is.
Right? And I know that people are like, well, he's an old man, and you'll ruin his life. But the thing is like this, right? Anytime it seems like men do something bad, it's always, you ruin their lives.
Mm-hmm.
If it's young kids, out of high school, and they do something terrible, they're like, oh, you don't want to ruin their lives,
their
right?
Futures. They've got such bright futures ahead.
Yeah. And, they make excuses for all ages and whatnot. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that it's that kind of attitude which leads to people like John doing these terrible things because he thinks that he can get away with it.
Right. If it was no big deal, he never would have had to hide a camera in the first place. He would have been like, hey, OP, is it okay if I put a camera in your bathroom?
Yeah.
But he knows what he's doing is wrong. He knows what he's doing is not okay. And the whole, well, it will ruin their lives. What about OP's life? Mm-hmm. What about all the people who have been victimized? Mm-hmm. Their lives have been permanently changed. A lot of people will suffer trust issues, PTSD, all kinds of psychological issues because of things like this, and their lives have already forever been changed. So why should the abusers, the people who have done these horrible things to them, just walk away scot-free? Because why do their lives matter so much more than their victims?
Yeah, and then I also want to point out, what do you think the odds are that this is his first time doing anything like this.
I mean, I would be sure that if he did it this discreetly, that OP didn't notice for a while, he's probably done it before.
He seems like a very well-practiced individual.
Like, I hope that he hasn't, but I imagine that when the police take his computer, they may find other people he's had footage of as well.
Yeah, and not to mention the damage of this being posted online, because it could be shared online, it could be shared between people. I mean, this guy has been doing, who knows what this person has been doing, right? And I think that OP should definitely press charges on him and sue him. I mean, I think you can do both civil and criminal law here, right? I think that he's done enough damage that OP could do both types of suits. But I don't feel any remorse for this guy. I mean, I would talk with Nancy and invite her over to OP's house, right? Or so that she can get away from him, because it's clear that she doesn't support his actions here.
Yeah, well, she's an unfortunate casualty in this situation. It's good that she recognizes that what her husband did was wrong and that she doesn't want to be with this person anymore. It does put her in an unfortunate predicament, but OP didn't do this. Her husband did.
Yeah. And again, I think extending the olive branch to her and trying to help her out in this situation is perfectly fine. And she may divorce him and take half of his assets, and then OP sues him and takes the other half of his assets.
Yeah,
right?
That's the right way to go.
And so leave him bankrupt, like his morals. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. In SNU Words 4839 says, report it and change your locks. And OP replies, locks have been changed shortly after I found out. First name and last name says, not the jerk, call the police and file a report. This has got to be several crimes here. And OP replies, I have already filed a report. Don't worry, he won't get away that easy. Alright folks, speaking of creepy neighbors, our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Suing My Neighbor After Finding Out He Poisoned My Cat for Jumping into His Yard? Hi all, I'm a 34-year-old female and I live alone with my cat Luna and my son. Luna has always been a bit of an explorer. She's really sweet, affectionate cat who usually just hangs out in my garden, but sometimes she'll hop over the fence into other yards. She's never done any harm, and honestly, I've never really thought much of it. I just assumed my neighbors were okay with it too, I guess. Then last week, I come home to find Luna laying flat on the kitchen floor, barely moving. I totally panicked, I grabbed her, and I rushed her to the vet. They ran a bunch of tests and told me that she had been poisoned, likely with bleach. I couldn't believe it. The vet was able to save her, thank goodness, but she was still really weak when I brought her back home. And I was both relieved and furious. When we got home, I decided to check our security cameras in the garden to see if I could figure out what happened. That is when I saw my neighbor, who I barely know, mind you, sneaking into my yard, and I watched in disbelief as he pours something into Luna's water bowl. My heart dropped. I was so angry and hurt. I went straight over to his house and I banged on his door and I confronted him. At first he denied everything, saying stuff like, it's not my fault that your cat goes out where it shouldn't, and maybe you should keep her inside if you care so much. I told him that I had video proof, and he just kind of shut the door in my face. I felt completely betrayed, and honestly, the thought of him doing something like that again terrifies me, not just for Luna, but for my son too. So I decided to file charges against him for animal cruelty. But now some of my family and friends think that I'm overreacting, saying that it just is going to make things worse with the neighbor, and maybe that I should have just kept Luna inside or put up a taller fence. I can kind of see their point, but I feel like this is serious, and that I have a responsibility to hold them accountable. Anyways, am I the jerk for going this far instead of just letting it go? Alright folks, what do you think? Should OP just let this dangerous man continue to be a threat to the neighborhood?
No, OP is definitely not in the wrong. In fact, this guy and the creep from the last story need to go straight into the centrifuge. I forgot to say that earlier. But yeah, both of them to the centrifuge now. What he did is horrible. And he, again, it's a crime too. You can't go around poisoning people's pets. And if he's done this to OP's cat, there's no saying he won't do this to other neighborhood pets that he doesn't like.
Yeah.
It's despicable. If he didn't want to face consequences of his actions, he shouldn't have done it. You should be able, I understand cats roaming around neighborhoods can be a little bit of a nuisance, but that doesn't give you the right to poison them. You can talk to the owner. You can
Yeah.
ask that they
Yeah.
keep them off your property. You can even call animal control if they're constantly in your yard or something like that. But you don't get to poison them.
Well, that's just it, right? So he could have talked to OP and been an adult, right? And said, hey, your cat is getting into my yard and it's doing X, Y, and Z. And then that way OP could have known and either put up a taller fence or kept their cat inside. And that would have been that, right? But instead, he chose to go this direction and, just do something terrible and horrible to an animal. And he deserves to go to jail for this, right? This is animal abuse. This is animal cruelty. He doesn't get to get away with doing abusive things to animals like this, plain and simple.
And he's a threat to the neighborhood, to the safety of the neighborhood pets. Anyone who's saying, oh, well, you should have just kept your cat inside, you should have just bought a taller fence, like, what if this was a child who was roaming in someone's yard and like digging up their garden or something? You wouldn't get to poison the kid.
No.
Cats don't have an awareness that they are a nuisance. And that's why you have to talk to their owners and let them know that it's a problem.
Yeah.
You don't get to go around poisoning family members willy-nilly.
Yeah. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. Alright folks, and our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Letting My Kids Loot My Brother's House to Prove My Point? My brother and his family came over for a visit last month. My kids and I play with Legos, and we have fun leaving little dioramas around my house. Just silly stuff like fights between Iron Man and Darth Vader on the Loot Llama. It's just our way of leaving Easter eggs around the house. My nephew liked them and decided to take a few home. When we noticed that they were missing, I asked my brother to bring them back. He said that he was just a kid and kids were being kids, and that he would take them back next time we saw each other. I saw him for coffee and reminded him beforehand that we wanted our stuff back. He forgot to bring the toys. Okay, game on. Well, we went over to his place for a barbecue, and I told my kids that unless our stuff was returned to us when we got there, literally anything in the house was fair game. Like the godless barbarians that they are, they went to town. When we left, I don't think there were any remotes, small electronics, beer mugs that left his house. I actually had to sneak a dog back into the house before we left. I started getting calls on the way home, but I ignored them. When I got home, I returned his calls, and he said a bunch of stuff was missing from his house. I said that I would check with the kids. He said that I knew well what happened and that he wanted his stuff back. I said that I would box it up and return it next time we saw each other, as long as we got our Legos back. He was at my house with Legos later that evening. He even accidentally included some stuff that wasn't ours. I returned it and his stuff. I told him that it is how we would be dealing with his kid in the future. He was mad that he had to make a special trip to return my stuff. My parents think that there is a huge difference between an 8-year-old taking Lego minifigures and a couple of teenagers pillaging their uncle's house. All right, folks, what do you think?
Nah, the jerk. It's very clear from this that he had no intention of returning the things. I mean, you were literally at his house. It wouldn't have been any trouble for him to get out the minifigures and hand them back. And so that shows how much regard he has for OP's property. And so OP wanted to get the message across that your kid can't go around taking our stuff, and I think he got the message across.
Yeah, I mean, the only place that I could really fault OP here is that when they got to the brothers' houses, they should have probably requested the stuff back, and had he not given it back, then to tell them to go to town. And I think that that's really all I can really fault him with. Other than this would be a really difficult situation to make a solid judgment here, because I feel like he's really justified in what he did. I mean, what was he supposed to do? Go to the police about a couple of missing Legos, right?
Right, and the police are just going to laugh it off. They're going to be like, it's a family dispute. And so the only way to fight fire in those cases is with more fire sometimes.
Yeah, so he didn't take this stuff with the intention of keeping it. He didn't take it for the purpose of stealing it. He took it as a form of collateral, we'll say, in order to get his stuff returned. And to prove a point that if the brother is going to do this kind of stuff, then he will return in kind. And maybe it's a little bit of an extreme measure, but I don't think that this was done with malice, so to speak. I think it was
Right.
done as a learning point.
Right, as just don't let your kids steal our stuff anymore. And it's an important that the 8-year-old is old enough to know you don't take things that don't belong to you. And if OP's brother isn't willing to, like, I understand Lego figures are small, so they could easily be hidden, but like to like collect them from the son and be like, okay, you took these, you weren't supposed to. Now they're gonna go back to brother and his family. You know, someone's gonna teach that kid that you don't just take things.
Yeah. And make them apologize too, right? But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. But folks, let's see what the Wheel of Judgment has to say about OP. Wheel of Judgment, turn, turn, turn. Tell us the judgment that OP's earned. Certified Drama Llama.
I mean, if the shoe fits.
It is a little dramatic. We've had the Certified Drama Llama recently too. The Wheel likes that one. I don't know why. All right, folks, it is tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I've got some tea right here, and Amber, she has a joke.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Figs.
Figs who?
Figs your doorbell, it's broken.
I mean, I hadn't heard that one before, so I mean that's at least clever. Clever. But my doorbell works perfectly fine. Thank you very much.
Obnoxiously fine.
And I have Mega Mint. Alright, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Happy Manic Monday, folks. I hope your Monday is off to a great start. Amber, we need some kind of moral advice and or guidance, and please have it on petty revenge.
Sometimes in small matters, turnabout is fair play.
Sometimes. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye.